I recently did a video reviewing the RAV4 Prime plug-in hybrid, and I mentioned that I also have a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, and I wanted to talk more about this car today so you have a good understanding of what this car is, what it's like, and how it compares to the RAV4. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid from 2022. I've had this EX trim plug-in hybrid for about 2 years, a little more than 2 years. And in this video, I'm going to explain the things I like, the things I dislike, and the overall expectations you should set if you are thinking about buying this car on the used market. Maybe you're trying to save some money. Maybe you're not sure if you want to get a RAV4 because it's so big. We're going to talk about all the pluses and minuses and things I've noticed with this car in this video. So quick backstory, I did have a Kia Niro EV before, but the charging stress on road trips was just too much to handle. And I saw a deal back in 2022 on a used, barely used plug-in hybrid version, which is the car I'm sitting in right now. And I was able to trade into that and basically lose no money at all. It was almost a straight trade because I was able to sell my car to CarMax, who they just give good deals when they buy your car. It's pretty reasonable. So I bought this plug-in hybrid at another dealership used, and I sold the EV to CarMax at a price that I thought was crazy for them to pay. And in the end, I got a car that works a lot better. It's more stress-free when we go on road trips and when we go long distances, so it's great. So first thing we should talk about is fuel efficiency. This car is quite fuel efficient. On longer road trips, we get anywhere between 40 and 50 miles per gallon. And in terms of just using EV range, it gets to around 24 miles pretty consistently of EV only. When we take road trips with a surfboard strapped to the top of this car, the mileage does go down markedly. You should also know that the number that shows up on the instrument panel here when you look to see what your miles per gallon is, it's actually not that accurate. So I've actually done some calculations to check it, and I'll see how many gallons I use, I'll see how many miles I traveled, and it will claim some sort of like something like 50 miles per gallon when in fact maybe it was only 45. There seems to be like a 5 to 10% discrepancy, and it almost always seems to err on the side of showing you that it's more efficient than it actually is. But still, if you're getting 40 miles per gallon, that's still pretty good. If you're getting 50, that's really awesome. Right now, over the lifetime of this car shows that I get like 153 miles per gallon, but that's because we're using electric most of the time with this car and then occasionally taking it on road trips. So it's doing really, really well. The 2023 model in the United States is updated to have even more range. I think it gets 33 miles per gallon, 33 miles of EV only range, which is awesome. I would prefer to have that, but it's really not worth getting another car. Like, why would I do that? I would be losing a ton of money. In the end, this costs about 10 to 12 cents per mile traveled. You can do the math wherever you are to see what things break down to. Whether it's gas or electric, for me, the cost is roughly the same with such a high fuel efficiency rating with gas and being able to charge at home at non-peak times. Actually, now we have solar, so our electricity is for now prepaid, and in the future will be essentially free. So now I'm going to show you something that I really like about this car, which is that it has radar cruise control that works quite well, and it also has steering assist that also works quite well for long road trips or just freeway driving in general. I do not use the steering assist when I'm driving on the street. It is a little bit too twitchy, but once we're on the highway, it works quite well. And it follows the lanes pretty well. The only thing I would say is when you are driving on the highway, if you are in the right lane and the exit kind of comes off of the freeway, the car will try to veer to the right to follow the lane lines on the right, which is not good. So if you are on the highway and you're using the lane keep assist or whatever this thing is called, then you probably want to stay at least one lane over away from the freeway exits. Otherwise, you will feel it jerking to kind of go off and exit because it's following the right lane lines. It seems like it should have been set to follow the left lane line, since then you would almost never hit the exit issue. The other thing with the With the cruise control, that you should notice is there is the ability to set the following distance, and I usually set that to 3 or 4 to feel safe because I don't fully trust the computer to make all my decisions. Also, deeper into the settings, there is a way to make it more sensitive, which I did because its default setting did not brake early enough for me. So when it was following a car in front, if that car started to brake, it would wait way too long for my taste before it would start braking. So you can up the sensitivity, and that makes it a whole lot safer. It feels a lot safer and a lot more comfortable. As for things I don't like about this car, well, it's a very docile car. It really lacks acceleration. It has a really weak gas engine and a pretty mediocre electric motor. So combined, I think you get just around 200 horsepower, which is totally serviceable and fine if you're just going around town. But once you start going up big hills, it starts becoming a bit of a struggle. With 200 horsepower, if your electric motor is running and your gas motor are running, then you're fine. But if you are doing this with just your gas, it's tough. You hear the car revving, it's loud, it feels like it's struggling, it doesn't like what you're doing to it. And that's really a bummer, because when you do have the electric going, it's actually reasonable. It's totally fine. It's not a big deal. But if you're taking a long road trip, you're going to burn through your electric battery, and then that electric motor is not really going to be doing anything to help you out. Another thing about the whole electrical system that's not ideal is that the car will always use gas if it's cold outside and your internal temperature is set to kick in some heat to warm up the car. This car uses the gas engine to provide heat to the cabin. So in the winter time, especially if you live somewhere that's quite cold, you're going to be hearing your gas engine just running in order to get your car warm. If you don't want to do that, then you just got to turn off your heater and just use your heated seats, and then wear gloves. That's pretty much the only workaround. Another thing I don't really like is that the electric motor is hooked up to the gears, and so when you are driving your car in first gear, it's fine, but then you feel it shifting. Even though you're running in the electric motor, it's shifting, and you get little lurches, you get little hesitations that feel not amazing. That actually improved recently when I had the car serviced for its 32,000 mile service, and we did the engine clutch actuator fluid change. And I don't really know what the heck that thing does, and you can go look it up. But basically, it seems to have improved some of the lurching. So if you do buy this car used, I would suggest checking that out. Talk with the dealer, see if they'll do the engine clutch actuator fluid change. I've been on some forums and people do mention that it's something that gets overlooked, and also even in early years, like within the first 10 to 20,000 miles, some people have reported inspecting their own fluid and seeing that it's been contaminated pretty early on. So that might have been contributing strongly to the lurching that I was experiencing, because even though I still get it a little bit, it does seem to have improved quite a bit, and I don't experience the hesitation when accelerating that I used to experience. Another thing that has kind of annoyed me is the 12-volt lead acid battery that's in the back of the car. That battery does some things in the cabin. It helps the car start even. But if you go on forums, you will find that people have bad experiences with that battery. Usually within the first 2 or 3 years, it fails. It starts kicking up weird errors in your car. I was starting to get those fairly frequently. I had to charge my battery at home a couple times. One time the car died in the driveway, so I just called Kia roadside assistance, so they had to pay for somebody to come and jumpstart my car. And eventually I swapped out that battery for an AGM battery, which again, I am no expert on these things. I just looked on the forums, saw that that's what people recommended. That seemed to solve a lot of the problems, and it seems to be fine for me now. I haven't had any issues, no more weird warnings, no more weird lights showing up on the dash. Although that did happen once when I charged at one specific public charging station. So I don't know if that was just a quirk related to how the charging station was broken or not functioning or whatever. But since I made that AGM battery change, I've been good to go for, I think it's been about a year now. The brakes are a slight negative point. Generally, they are pretty predictable. They're reasonably linear, but like apparently many hybrids, the brake can sometimes be grabby. And what does that mean? Well, grabby brakes means you are stepping on the brake and it'll just kind of like, it'll really grab too hard. It'll hit the brakes too hard, even though your foot didn't change. When the hybrid system goes from the regen brake system to the physical brakes, like using brake pads, you can feel it just like grab, and your car just kind of jolts a little bit, and it's not a great driving experience. But it doesn't seem to happen too often where it's super grabby. I notice it most when I first start driving it for the day, or when coming off the highway. When we've been driving on the highway for a bit, we go to slow down, and as you're slowing to that stop, you can feel a rough transition. Now, my foot has gotten pretty used to it, so when I sense it about to do the grab, I kind of let off and then adjust, and it's fine. But sometimes it still gets me, and it's the one thing that really bothers me on a daily basis, because when I was kind of fantasizing about getting an EV6 to replace this car, I was thinking, oh, I could just get rid of this stupid grabby brake problem. But in the end, I did decide not to get an EV6 because they are having a never-ending stream of failures of an electrical component. I guess the ICCU fails randomly, and I don't want to have that fail on a car, on an electric car. It seems kind of ridiculous to have to worry that your brand new or even slightly used EV6 might die on you because an electrical component fails, and then you might be sitting around weeks or months waiting for that component so that you can fix that car. I just don't want to get into that. So I'm sticking with the plug-in hybrid because it means no range anxiety. It also means I don't have ICCU failures. And this 2022 has been around for quite a while. Kia had this generation of cars since I think 2017 or 2018, which means they had enough time to kind of work out the kinks, and you have enough history to know like what kind of issues you're going to run into. When you compare this car to the RAV4 Prime, there are some ways it wins and some ways it loses. In terms of wins, if you like a smaller car, this car is definitely smaller, it's lower, it's more nimble, but it is not fast. The RAV4 Prime is bigger, and it is definitely faster in a straight line. It's got much, much better acceleration. I believe it is actually twice as fast at accelerating. So I think the RAV4 Prime is 5.5 seconds 0 to 60, and the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid is like 10.5 seconds to get to 60, and you really can feel the difference. But, you know, if you're looking for a small car that can still hold stuff, the Kia Niro is pretty good. I can fit a 9'6" longboard. I just stick the nose here, and I put the seat, this front seat, I just knock it back. I knock down the rear seats, and I have the tail back there with the fins up, and I can fit a 9'6" longboard no problem in this car. And that means no drag. And then if you want to put a mid-length or a shortboard in it, you can fit it. You've got plenty of room for surfboard. So it's a great surf trip vehicle. When you're at highway speeds though, the RAV4 Prime is definitely quieter and more comfortable. The Niro does have cabin noise. It's not atrocious. You just have to talk a little bit louder if you're riding with somebody. But if you want a quieter car, the RAV4 Prime is definitely quieter, and it definitely has more room to store more stuff. So if you're looking for a family vehicle and you have more than just you and a partner, like you have some kids, you're definitely going to want to consider getting the bigger car. The Niro we did manage to use as a family road trip car a little bit longer by putting a roof rack and a roof box on it, but it's still really tight even just with 3 of us. And, you know, once you start trying to throw in bikes and whatever, it really starts becoming a problem. And then when you start going on camping trips, it's even harder because you got all this extra stuff, and then you run out of space in that very small trunk. But if you're just on your own and you're looking for a reasonably priced car that can hold a lot of stuff that isn't really big, this is a really good option because you can fit a decent amount of stuff if you just knock down the back seats. Charging on the Kia Niro is not that fast. It is at 3.3 kilowatts, and that's even with a level 2 charger. Contrast that with the RAV4 Prime, which has a 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger. So when you plug in a level 2 charger, it's going to pull at 6.6 kilowatts. Although when I look at my solar system statistics, when this is charging, it's actually pulling around 7.4 kilowatts, which means there's a lot of energy that's going to just running the actual charger itself, and maybe there's some other inefficiencies that I am not an expert on and won't even bother speculating on. The main point here is even if you have a level 2 charger, this is going to charge at 3.3 kilowatts, but in practice that is not as bad as it sounds because it still takes only about 2.5 hours to charge the battery on the Kia Niro to full. When you compare it to the RAV4 Prime, it's not that bad because the RAV4 Prime also takes about 2.5 hours when it's on a level 2 charger. The difference, of course, again, is that the Toyota RAV4 Prime will have a longer total range and will be a lot faster from 0 to 60. But otherwise, the total charge time is the same. The Kia Niro will just get you 24 to 26 miles of electric range. The RAV4 Prime gets us between 33 and 42 miles of electric only range, depending on how much city driving and how much highway driving we're doing. Overall, the 2022 Kia Niro plug-in hybrid is not going to wow anybody. It does not have sporty driving characteristics. It is just practical. It can store stuff, and it is just going to get you around town comfortably and with great fuel efficiency. If you're thinking about getting this car because you want a fuel-efficient, practical car and you have a small family or you're a single person and you don't have any kids to haul around, then this is a pretty good car that I think is a very reasonable buy, especially on the used market. Although who knows where the used market might go. If this car is suddenly $30,000, I wouldn't recommend paying for that. Although who knows, if a hamburger costs $20, then $30,000 for a used car might be reasonable. If you don't really care about driving dynamics and you just want to get from point A to point B, this is a very reasonable, practical car. If you already own this car and you have some ideas and comments that you want to share, please drop them in the comment section down below. And if you're going to end up buying this car because you watched this review, then hit the like button, drop me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of the video and let me know what was most helpful. And if you have other questions, drop them in the comments down below too. If you don't want to miss out on any future videos where I talk about cars I own or other random stuff, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. And as always, remember to keep it simple.